welcome to the Up Nerd Podcast. I'm your main host, Kyle, along with my still trying out gaming co-host, John, aka Seraphim.
Greetings, gamers. How's it
Seraphim the
going?
host. Sorry, Seraphim the host is your full
Seraph
name.
the host, yeah, on Twitch, and yep.
Seraphim's your cat. Sorry,
Seraphim is the cat, indeed.
that's close.
Oh man,
Sorry about that.
no problem. Thanks for the introduction, buddy.
Yeah. So, how are you feeling?
Feeling great, man. We had a good day today. We went out to Gracie's for Chinese food today. That was fun. Their food quality has kind of had like a steady decline, but it was a nice little date night for Laura and I, so that was nice.
Yeah, I've noticed that. That's just slowly but surely getting worse and worse.
Fair enough. Yep. So what are we talking about today?
Well, we'll start off with the Sweet Baby Inc. and the whole more or less Gamersgate 2.0.
Sweet Baby Inc. Gamergate 2.0. Exciting stuff.
That's really not. It's really not. It's
some of the news does seem a little bit overplayed, and I get that there's like a wokeness thing and that type of a thing in our culture and media today. But yeah, I guess do you want to break down what's going on with Sweet Baby Inc?
All right. So apparently there's been controversy ever since mainly the release of the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. That some people had a problem with it for various reasons. It just wasn't a good game. It wasn't a good game. And at some point, the part of the blame got shifted towards a company called Sweet Baby Inc., who is a consulting firm who helps fix narrative and try to establish more diverse cast and more diverse writing for video games and such.
Okay, so just kind of a consulting company.
Yes, they're a consulting company, and from what I've read on them, they're a very kind of pushy consulting company.
Gotcha. Do it our way or else. Is that kind of a thing?
Like if you not like or else, it's more like they're just taking advantage of, well, if you don't do it our way, your game's not going to sell, and the people who want to just make money are going to do what they say.
Okay.
And so after the Suicide Squad game, some other games came out. We had Alan Wake 2 and something else. I can't remember what it was.
More like Alan Woke 2, am I right?
Listen. I'll get on that because that's actually one of the games I finished over the week.
Yeah.
They had some people, not positive reviews on some of these games, and some people pointed out that some of that Sweet Baby Inc.'s narrative choices that they wanted to push or had put into the game weren't great. Now, I'm not saying that there's not dickheads in this, because that's always part of the problem, is you get dickheads who scream the loudest, who want to put on that show and just be like, oh, diversity's bad, or whatever.
I guess there's a group that I guess put all of the games and project that Sweet Baby Inc. has ever been involved in. They made like a group or something like that so that they could expose them specifically against other, I guess, just in general, or what was the point of that?
All right. So the whole purpose of it was kind of retaliation for one of Sweet Baby Inc.'s first like interviews, where they went about it very wrong. They're like, well, if you're not woke, you're stupid, and if you're not worried about diversity in every single thing, you're part of the problem, and you're a crybaby, and so on and so forth. So then that left a bitter taste in certain people's mouth. So they made a group that got together and gave a full list of every game and stuff they worked on. And from what I read on their post was nothing derogatory, like, hey, F these people. They're like, if these are the games they worked on, you know, if you have an issue with them, don't buy them. Don't support a company that, if you don't agree with what they do.
Yeah.
Here's the games they worked on, so you cannot support them if that's part of your bag. Well, Sweet Baby Inc.'s thing was, well, that's harassment.
Okay.
They called harassment.
That seems like freedom of speech. Did they just upload it to their own like review site, or how is this list curated?
I believe it was through Twitter where everything happens.
Okay, all right. So they just tweeted out like a bunch of the Sweet Baby Inc. games, and they're
Yeah.
okay. All right.
And Sweet Baby Inc. freaked out and called it harassment.
Now is it from what I understood about that situation, was it the CEO specifically, like and privately, that called it out, or was it?
She did it on like a public forum, and that's the problem. Is these are all the wrong people to give the loudest voices to.
Mm-hmm.
Because the problem is she's doing her pushback because she didn't like something else did. So now she's trying to make sure she has her say, which is fine. Everyone should have a say in something. Everyone should be allowed to say what they want.
Okay.
But the problem is the way she went about it is causing more retaliation. And now, instead of being the level-headed people, all the unlevel-headed people, all the douchebags, are coming out of the woodworks to keep this fire going.
Gotcha. Okay, all right.
And then now I sent you the article the other day that involved Elon Musk. He directly spoke out against Sweet Baby Inc.
I'm sure he would.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely.
Yep.
And then on top of it, Sweet Baby Inc. is trying to get a bunch of Twitch streamers, popular Twitch streamers and stuff, canceled. They're on a crusade to get anyone canceled. And I watched the one dude streamer. I didn't watch the other ones, but they're harassing us, and we're gonna try to get anyone canceled if they have anything to say about this situation. Well, the streamer didn't say anything bad. He actually just reviewed what he saw in the articles and was very level-headed like we are. Like, we're not saying one way or another.
Sure.
We're just calling it out for what we see, and we're like, both sides are kind of in the wrong right now.
Yeah. I mean, I can definitely say that I think that it's fine for a company to hire a consulting firm for like diversity and inclusion. And if they want that stuff in their game, I mean, they are the publisher. They have the final say in what product gets pushed out. So if a game sucks, it just feels like a scapegoat to blame. Okay, well, this is Sweet Baby Inc. The reason Suicide Squad was awful. It comes down to it, it's the person who owns and holds that intellectual property that's responsible for delivering a good product. And if they failed to do so, then I think the fans should be focused more with that production company than Sweet Baby Inc. Now I know they got into some drama in Twitter, and all that online stuff that matters, but doesn't really matter, but kind of matters.
No, and I agree with you. Like, the publisher of the game should be held accountable, but at the same time, if you have if Sweet Baby Inc. handles their business like how they're handling this situation,
mm-hmm.
where if you don't side with them, they're going to do everything in their power to ruin you.
Yeah,
because like I said, these two streamers are very popular, and they had nothing negative to say. They just reviewed and react to this wildness and just said, "This is wild. What is going on?"
Yeah,
we have our opinions that one way or this way. And they didn't take sides, and then now two of the streamers were going to be on the new Dragon's Dogma game as NPCs.
Okay.
And Sweet Baby Inc. is trying to go on a crusade to get them taken out of this game. Right after they tried to get Twitch to drop them as well.
Okay, all right.
So that's like, if they handle their consulting and business like that, where it's, if you don't do or like how we want to do it, we're gonna do everything in our power to ruin you. You know, that's part of the problem too, because now these companies are not they're not making these choices based off of either the art aspect or true diversity. They're like, oh, we have to be woke, or this company that's about this is gonna try to throw us under the bus.
Yeah. I
So that's pigeonholing people. That's
yeah.
make him develop this game this way via you know force.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that, and I mean we can look at more recent examples of games that were in the culture war. You know, you have like Harry Potter and games like that. I personally know a couple streamers who had streamed to that game and had really big problems within their community for just simply streaming it. Um, I know a lot of people are just huge Harry Potter fans, and when it comes down to it, people are going to connect with the products and things that are delivered that appeal to them the most. I think Hogwarts Legacy did very well. I think it's a decent game, but maybe a little bit overhyped. And I think we saw that kind of as a backlash to counterculture. The whole culture war thing leaves a bad taste in my mouth, not because of people having a distaste for one thing or the other, but what it does is it causes people to get in their own little corners and then start doing these review bombings of websites. And when people do that, they aren't helping their cause at all, right? Like if I'm somebody who's against this wokeness and diversity, and I'm slamming on the Warner Brothers game because it's woke now, and that's the problem with it. Well, it sounds like there are other games that or other problems that make that game just bad, right? But
Oh yeah, there's a million problems that make that game bad.
yeah, exactly, right?
Like
And when you have these review companies, or not review companies, but these curated lists of publishers and every project they've been related to, a lot of the times the plan is to, hey, this is a group, this is all of the games they've worked on. Let's attack all these games, review bomb, and then we'll get them. And what ends up
yeah,
happening is the company gets bad feedback because they're told that the game's bad by people who haven't played it. They're just screaming woke, and it's very easy for the people who want to promote wokeness in gaming and all that stuff, which I don't think necessarily is a bad thing, but it leaves them to believe that the only reason this game did poorly is because of the culture wars. And I guess when it comes down to it, like, there's so many better reasons to be pissed off at gaming right now. The fact that you
yeah,
can every game that's newly released is basically crowd funded because it's being released at like a 30 to 40% completion, and then they're like, trust us, we'll finish the other 60% of the game, and you just gotta
yeah,
trust them at their value, at their word on that.
and that's a whole nother subject that me and Andrew very much differ on, and me and him fight over it. Like as far as that goes, like having games that are not released at full capacity.
Yeah.
I said, would you go to a restaurant and only expect 30% of your meal half cooked or 30% cooked?
Well, I mean,
I was like, if
to
I'm going to have a meal, it needs to be done. It's not. I don't want. I'd rather the cook show up a couple minutes late or a time late with a good meal
yeah.
that's complete and all together than give me an almost complete meal where I'm dissatisfied and wait for him to eventually get to the other parts and complete my meal.
I agree. If we'll stick with the food and meal concept, if you're ordering dinner somewhere nice, you may do an appetizer and you may do a dessert, right? You expect the main dish to all come out the same time, but then you have these little add-ons that you can get later. You can get that appetizer, you can get that dessert, right? But with these games, the way they're released now, it's like, okay, well, I got my salad. Okay, now I'm gonna get the main dish, but it's just the chicken, and they're gonna come in with the green beans in like 5 minutes, and then 10 minutes later we'll get the corn or whatever, right? And
Or the
then we'll
mashed
get our
potatoes,
dessert, and it's
or
just
the
yeah,
gravy. Exactly.
exactly, yep,
But before we jog off into that
yeah,
direction,
right,
to get back onto this, the Sweet Baby Ink issue is here's my thing. In the culture wars, there's they have to realize, like, both sides. Both have to realize not every game is bad because it's woke, and not every game is good because it's woke. Like
I,
the for me, inclusion means very little if the product is good or bad. Like if the game is stellar and great, I really don't care about the inclusion because the game was stellar.
yeah.
Like a lot of like it means nothing to me for inclusion if the game is stellar. If the movie's good, any of that. If the product is just so good, either the inclusion never comes into my mind or it doesn't bother me because everything else is out, so it's just like whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
It
definitely get that. Um,
I'm very much against where they start to, in order to make sure something is to the level of inclusion, because I'm going to avoid the W word because I don't want to be part of that
it's
culture.
cringy to say
Uh,
woke. Gotcha.
yeah, it just sounds annoying to me. It's like one of those words that are annoying to me. Um, if if you are sacrificing good gameplay or a good narrative point just to make sure that something's represented, doesn't work.
No, that makes sense. I think to make something I'm gonna say woke just because I'm gonna say woke. If you make
No,
something
and
woke
I get it.
just to be
I'm,
woke, what you're doing is you're sabotaging the art or project that you're doing. If you're able to enrich the story, then it's less pandering and it's more okay. We've really got a good story going now, dealing with some of these more difficult aspects of society. You know, I mean,
yeah,
everybody there are people who want to pretend that racism went away with the Civil Rights Act, you know, and stuff like that. But those people aren't exposed to that type of thing nearly as much. So, you know, it's one of those things that you get to see it a little bit in media what the experiences of actual people are. And I think when they have pandering, even TV show or movies that pander to those demographics, but really it doesn't add anything or really show a struggle. It's just like it just feels very forced. I think that's a poor way to do inclusion and diversity as well.
and that's what I'm saying is like a lot of things, like a lot of the games that Sweet Baby Inc. is involved in, a lot of their stuff is very forced. Like they've had really big successes. I'm not going to take away from them. Like they've been part of some very successful games. They were part of both the Spider-Man games, which were massive hits,
It's pretty good. Yeah.
and no one was complaining about Sweet Baby Inc. there. But they're also what they did for the levels of inclusion. You know, they were noticeable, but like I said, if everything around is great, the like you said, the forced perspective is not as noticeable. It
Yeah.
just blends in, like you don't notice as much. Where if you just try to force it down somebody's throat and the product's not as good, it just becomes like the gross seasoning on a gross meal.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I guess I see that. I guess where I ultimately fall on this issue is I think it's good to have these diversity companies that can consult in video gaming. But I think the gamers that are having issues with these things should boycott companies with their wallet and not buy that product, not buy the stuff that they don't like. And if they do buy the product and they do honestly dislike it, then to provide and leave honest feedback in reviews so these publishing companies can tell why did I get this, why did I refund this within the first 2 hours on Steam, or you know, that's what they cut these if you want to inspire change, start refunding games on Steam. Like, try the game, refund it on Steam, and that company's going to start thinking twice after they see, you know, hundreds of people returning a game for a good reason. But
let's not hope. Let's not hope for that because they a lot of studios that have been destroying their own games and own franchises with some of this stuff still haven't learned.
I
Like,
think a lot of these companies haven't learned uh, because they don't believe it's a problem. And the reason I say that is the people who weren't going to get the game or play the game anyways are the people currently leaving feedback on these games. And they're shooting themselves in the foot because the culture, everything, it's not going to get changed that way. It's just going to cause this escalation. But if you're
yeah,
actually honestly and freely reviewing the content that you actually engage in, and really giving actual reasons why it matters other than just review bombing something,
yeah,
these studios aren't going to have this scapegoat that they usually have for their investors. And when it comes down to it, they're corporations. They want money more than anything, and right now they think they can get that money by the diversity that they're adding to content. Because hey, we do see people buy this stuff because we add this.
yeah.
So
So, but as you said about people review bombing, um, this whole thing with Sweet Baby Inc. is no one review bombed it yet. No one was review bombing it. They just freaked out that someone put a full list of everything they worked on and said, if you have problems with this, these are the games to not buy. They were open, like boycotting, like with their wallets. He said, here's an informed list of everything they worked on. If you don't want to purchase them or support them, this is the games you don't buy to not support them. Like, and that's fair. That's a fair way to handle it. That's not trying to review bomb. That's not harassment. That's saying this is what they worked on. If you have an issue, don't buy these games then. Flat out.
I'm gonna yes but you on this one, Kyle. Yeah,
Okay.
yes, but when they put these games out, and they put this, well, when they put the list out of these games, did they put this list out to people who were going to just simply not engage with those games, or did they post it in a place where these games were going to start getting review bombed just for their involvement in Sweet Baby Inc? I know they didn't implicitly, they didn't explicitly say that they want people to review bomb, but did they set it up so that those games were going to get the review bombs that we see
Yes,
in
but
these things?
the problem is that there's literally no way to be able to, like, how to handle it. If you're going to open protest, you're always going to get the bad side of things. There's always going to be those idiots that take the protest way too far, or they ruin the message of the protest. That's no matter what we do, whether they do it on any kind of online forum or they do it in public. No matter what, you're going to see the bad side of things. There's always going to be, no matter how good your goal is, you're always going to see the idiots that want to ruin your good goal with their how they want to present themselves. So my thing is, you don't put the people on the that go, hey, this is the list of games they worked on. If you don't want to buy it, don't buy it. Here it is. You don't put them on the list. You put all the idiots that go, F this company, and actually harass. But the problem is, Sweet Baby Inc. didn't go after the people that are being ignorant. They're going after the people who made the list in the first place, who never even remotely tried to insinuate that there should be a mass, review bomb or anything.
Okay.
They were just putting out informed information, accurate information. And then on top of it, now that they have like popular streamers who are, even making comments or anything about this, they want to sit there and say they're part of the harassment because they're not saying, we're in the right.
Yeah.
And that's not okay. That's too far.
Yeah, no, I think most people would agree that once you start trying to cancel people on Twitter just for criticizing
Not
your
agreeing?
company, it's pretty rough sale at that point.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. Like, I'm not saying there's not review bombers and there's not dickheads on the anti woke side,
Yeah,
but there's there's dickheads on both sides, and I'm the person who sits in the middle and said you're all dickheads.
yeah,
You're all being dickheads because the people at Sweet Baby are just being dickheads. They're like, if you're not woke, you're a problem, and you need to be canceled and erased. I'm like,
Yeah, there's too many people who retreat into their own ideology and don't allow
Yeah, and
themselves to be
it's
open
too
to a
far.
more worldly view. And yeah,
A
I
balanced view.
yeah. So I think we kind of agree in a lot of this, and we could cut the difference down the middle. Yeah, I mean we could argue the fringes of this issue, but I think when it comes down to it, we both kind of believe that if they want to have any kind of inclusion or anything like that in games, it's a fine thing as long as they're doing it in a responsible way that either promotes the struggle of that community or represents it in a good way, but also doesn't negatively impact the story so that um,
Yeah.
we're an inferior product gets pushed out,
Or not
which
even
sounds
just,
like Sweet
but
Baby
yeah, not
Inc.'s
even just
kind of
negatively
doing at
impact the
this point.
story, but negatively impact the culture. Because there's times that some of these people put in these woke views on things that actually make the culture look bad.
Okay. What would an example of that be, Kyle?
Um, as far as games, there's not too many that I can think of right offhand.
Mhm.
I've heard things, but I've never played the game, so I can't really give an informed decision on that. But some of the best ones are movies right now, movies and cinema. Like that, that's a little more, even more apparent and blatant. Um, like a lot of the Marvel stuff. The biggest one right now I can think of, right to my face, is the 2016 Ghostbusters movie, the all-female cast Ghostbusters movie.
Oh, okay. All right.
That movie was garbage,
Gotcha.
and it made women generally look bad because it, like, the problem is all four of the actresses that played those characters
Hmm.
were all amazing on SNL and whatever. They're all good actresses. They're all very funny women. But whoever wrote that script and handed that to them, and they decide that queef jokes and all the other shit they were doing was the right way to go, was not the right way to go. And it was a terrible movie. It did not come out well. It made all these women's careers like turn into drama pools. Leslie Nielsen, I think her name is, the black woman.
Yeah.
She's still fighting with everybody about the 2016 Ghostbusters
Oh
movie
my gosh.
because she's pissed off about the new ones that have been coming out in the last couple years.
Okay.
Like, that's a problem. Like, listen,
I mean,
I
I've
understand
heard the new ones are really good, or at
they
least
are.
the
They're
one new
amazing.
one's really good.
Yeah,
But yeah, I've heard nothing but bad things about the all female
and
Ghostbusters, which
and I
it sounds like they didn't handle that inclusion very well. And I think
no,
sometimes it's I mean, there's kind of a diverse cast with the Ghostbusters originally. Maybe if they, maybe if they changed one of the characters. I mean, it's a new group, right? Of I haven't seen the movie. Is it a new group of
the
Ghostbusters, or
2016
is it
is
a
like a reboot.
retelling of the original
It
story?
was a retelling of the original story, more or less, but all women instead of men.
Okay, I think that's a little lame,
The
but
whole
it
thing
is
was
what
done
it
in
is.
bad faith. Let's just be honest. It was done in bad faith.
Gotcha.
There was no respect to the original creator. There was just, let's do this way because we could. And like Disney and Marvel are following that train hard, and
Yeah,
their profit margins have been showing.
they're losing money, but you know what they're telling their investors? These products are doing bad specifically because people are review bombing us, and it's not to do with the quality of the product that we're putting out. Now I think some of
Yeah.
the higher ups are starting to get that message. I mean, the MCU is in a bad place right now. Hopefully Deadpool is the MCU Jesus and fixes
It,
things, but
listen,
we'll
it'll
see.
be good, but I guarantee it's not going to save it because they're going into all kinds of different directions. But to just back on the point before I lose myself in another conversation,
Mhm.
I think you're right. We both agree, but I think we're seeing it from different points. Like,
Yeah.
I'm seeing it like everyone's just being douchebags and they all just need to shut up and grow up.
I agree with that 100%.
Okay.
I think we're there right there. uh,
But I think me and you are like on the gray. We're both in the gray, but I think you lean one side where I lean more the other.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Like we're about shoulder width apart on the
Yeah.
line.
What you're saying, Kyle, is I'm a little bit more woke than you. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, absolutely.
Fair enough. All right, no
That's
problem.
because I'm very cynical. Now, am I all open for everyone being represented in a fair way? Absolutely. You know I am.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep.
But I hate it when it's really dumb and just is just a pander. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, it does nothing for that culture. It does nothing to help anybody. That's stupid.
The only thing I can relate with that in is, since I'm a type 1 diabetic, there's a lot of media that portrays type 1 diabetics, and they do such a bad job at it. Like, people have no idea how diabetes works because of diabetics being included in these movies, and how poorly they handle the issue, and they really just turn it into a plot device when, yeah, sometimes you got to get a new reservoir at an inconvenient time. I mean, show that inconvenience, but man, when they make it the focal point of an entire movie, it's really lame, and it's really crappy way of showing that diversity. And somebody who's diabetic, they don't consult anybody. These movie companies that care about this diversity and inclusion sure don't do a good job with handling disabilities. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
They don't handle even-handed. Like, it's almost, a lot of the time these companies, when they do stuff like that, it's almost like a parody. Like, they push it so far of representation that they almost make a joke out of it. And that's what hurts this, is they're not handling it even-handedly.
Gotcha. I can 100% see that argument towards the wokeness group. I can definitely see that argument.
Yeah. So I thought this was interesting. Just interesting on the fact that we're circling back to this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always been ongoing for any little thing that anybody can freak out on. One side or another, be like, oh well, you're doing this because this, or we're going to complain because you have a white lead, or we're going to be mad because you did this. Like, it's just interesting when I found it interesting what causes it to pop off.
Yeah. And what I think will help this issue is, the more 30-something-year-old men talk about this stuff on their podcasts, I think the better things I think the better things will get.
Yeah, no.
Oh my gosh.
No, it's just because here's the thing. If we were locked in a room with those people, me and you would be on the cross burning.
There's a chance. I mean,
because like
either group, really, honestly.
Like, the way they're carrying this on. If we were any type of actual popular, like big names, and we were talking like Living over him, where we're just even-handed, like we're like, there's benefits and there's negatives, real conversation. Oh my God, we'd be doomed.
Oh my gosh, my reputation on Reddit would be demolished. Like, in the end, this stuff doesn't really matter. There can be real world ramifications and issues with this, but a lot of it's just like fringe people bringing this stuff up. There are a couple examples of people getting canceled, but I don't know. I think you have to do something pretty rough to actually get canceled from some of this stuff.
Yeah, but the problem is we live in a society now that are so quick to jump. Instead of seeing it as like a spectrum, like, oh, this is kind of like, they don't think about logically. They just jump right on. Hot button, go.
Yeah.
It's just immediate. Like, people have been so reliant on just immediate. You're either immediate against or for something. Not like, oh, well, let me see both sides and see their points and then, make a conclusion. It's either you're on one side or the other. There is no in between. There is no just on your own. You have to be on one side or the other now. And that's part of the problem why we're having such problems in so many different areas in life.
I agree.
Everyone's forcing one way or the other.
Sometimes choices aren't binary. Yeah. I think it comes down to that. But Kyle, I've been playing some games. Have you been playing games?
I've actually played 3 games. I finished 2 of them, I believe.
Ooh, what games were you playing? What'd you bring today?
I finished Alan Wake 2.
Alan Woke, I'm gonna call it now. Alan Woke
right.
2.
which is a game that Sweet Baby Inc. definitely had their hands in, because there is definitely parts you could really tell out of nowhere. You're like, all right, someone had an agenda here to push.
Okay.
But I will tell you that Alan Wake 2 is a solid 9 or 10 out of 10 for me. I enjoyed the original game in 2010.
Okay.
This one was just as up there as everything else. It was just good. It was really good. It was very much a switch from the first game. On the first game was like more linear level kind of basis, less exploratory.
Yeah.
Where this one was open world map, and they handled it very well. They handled it very correctly. Now there is a distractor, but this is not really from the game's point of view. It's just kind of what they decided to do with this one is they decided to not release physical copies.
Okay.
All of a sudden they're like, it's going to be download only, get over it. Which I was already disappointed.
That's
for
disappointing.
a console. I was already disappointed because they're trying to ever closer move into the digital only.
You own nothing. You have to download it from a server. It's RIP. Yeah.
And we should have a talk about that one of these times.
Yeah, you know what? I'll sum my talk about that down to this very point. If you don't expect me to own the games that I purchase, then I'm going to pirate the hell out of those games.
Here's my thing. I don't think...
I'm not actually going to pirate. I don't advocate for pirating games.
Yeah, right? My thing is, like, just with that was like your quick thing. Cool. If you don't want me to own the game, then it needs to be an indie game that is not a AAA multi-million game.
Yeah.
If you have multi-million dollars, you just burn it onto a CD and you give me my game. Not pigeonhole it and be like, oh, we might remove the servers on you, and then you're out of luck.
Yeah. There's. I'm sure there's plenty of games now that are completely unplayable for that very reason.
Yeah. So we should talk about that in a little more depth one of these times. But so that was one of the problems, and with it being solely digital, I ran into a lot of problems with the game. Mostly at the end. Thank God it was mostly at the end. Also, not thank God, because then I had to struggle through it to be able to beat the game. So one of the problems I ran into was every so often it'd be like, it would have a hard time running the graphics. On my system that's curated for the game. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That shouldn't happen. Well, I got to a point where I thought my Xbox was overheating because my game would crash. Randomly.
Yeah.
Well, I looked it up. It's a common problem with a lot of people, especially the people who have an Xbox Series X, which are the hard drive based, which are the, disc based ones.
Okay.
Like, there was not as many, there was like hardly anybody that owned the digital only versions that were having these problems. Well, I finally figured it. I let the Xbox rest for a day. Thought maybe it just needed to cool down. Maybe I was playing it for too long. I was like, oh, I'm only playing it for like 2 hours, so that's definitely not what it should have been.
Yeah.
But after I did that, the next day, I went to do something on it, and I activated an ability, and it crashed again. So then I was like, what happens if I don't use that ability at all? And I didn't, and I got through the game. It didn't crash.
That's really silly. So there's a game-breaking ability that your character has where its only function is to crash your game.
Well, no, it's flares. Like, you get flares to help ward off the demons, right?
Okay, yeah.
Well, I'm at the point I'm on in this game is one of the side characters is also throwing flares every so often and using other, explosion-type bright lights.
Yeah.
Well, all the times it would crash is either right when too many enemies got on top of me and then I activated a flare to back them off. So I think it was just trying to render 3 different intense light sources all at the same time, plus all the characters, plus everything that's going on in the background. It would cause it to crash. So with me not using the flares, you letting the regular flares are going to toss around, and just making sure I just drop these enemies as quick as possible instead of try to let them group up so I could, take out a cluster, and just started dropping them immediately, kept the numbers at a certain point.
Yeah.
It never crashed again. So I got excited about that, and then 5 minutes later, after I got through that, the game's volume completely cut out for the rest of the game.
Oh, that's awful.
There was no sound for the last half an hour of that game.
Wow, that you love that in a survival horror game, don't you?
Oh yeah, I was kind of thoroughly mad, but I'm like, I'm too close to the end now. I just need to get through it. I turned off the Xbox, turned it back on, canceled the game out, turned it back on. Nothing for the last half an hour.
Man, I can't believe Sweet Baby Inc. came to your house, screwed up your Xbox so that you couldn't use your flares because you didn't accept their ideology, Kyle. That is wild.
They called the Pinkertons.
They called the Pinkertons? Oh my gosh.
They're in league with Hasbro.
Yeah, Hasbro and Sweet Baby Inc. calling them the Pinkertons.
But you know what? Whatever. I let it go because I was just trying to get through the game. Not because I just wanted to be done with it, but I wanted to see what happened. Now, I missed out on a whole bunch of dialogue. Yes. Fortunately, I went back and rewatched it after I saw it and got the missing words, which I was okay with. And I loved it. It was I don't think it was quite it wasn't quite the step up the game needed to be narratively in some spots.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a step up in the overall game.
Okay. Very cool.
And
Very cool.
Loved it. I'm super proud that I played it. I'm still disappointed it's digital only. So now I'm going to have an empty space on my shelf.
How many flares out of 10 do you give the game, Kyle?
I'd say 9 out of 10 flares.
9 out of 10 flares? Very good. Very good. Even with those issues.
Because the game was good. Like, no matter what, like, technical errors are technical errors. I'll deal with them later.
Makes sense.
Trying to think what else I played. I played. I finished one of my little Sado games. It's not as sad as much as it could be. It was called Wedding Witch.
Wedding Witch.
Yes. Have you ever played Vampire Survivor?
Negative.
It is. I'm trying to think of a game I could compare it to. Then, if you haven't played that, it's just one of those games where you have a character that gets abilities as you play, and they just have a bunch of enemies coming in from all sides of the screen, and you got to keep taking them out and not die.
Oh, kind of like a roguelike game.
Kinda, but it's just like a isometric or a top-down 2D thing.
Yeah.
Just, they all come in at the same time.
You gotta
like one of those
blow them up around the screen. Do you have like a movement and then like a gun control that shoots independently or something like that? Or
yeah, and it shoots on its own, and then you pick up abilities, and then it upgrades the abilities, and you never actually control how many times you shoot. It just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah,
kind of like a tower defense game almost.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I saw a popular YouTuber playing it. I was like, this seems sad. So I picked it up for the $4 it was being sold for. And it's just you're a witch who is about to get married to the love of her life.
Aw.
And it's, of course, a cute anime girl. And then you modify your character. Don't you dare. I hate you. You can modify your character's body type to all these different types.
Oh, I'm sure there's plenty of different proportions.
Now listen.
I'm sure I know the proportions you set your character, Kyle.
Oh, yeah. No, but when I bought this, I was like, this is going to be a Sado, just a cheap way to look at adult content. It actually wasn't.
No? Okay.
No, they kind of kept it, like, I'd say, teen.
All right.
They kept it at teen level, where it's enough to attract the Sados.
Yeah.
But the gameplay was fun enough to be on its own thing. and it's weirdly addictive. Like the game itself is weirdly addictive, and I'm like, now I need to play Vampire Survivor because the Vampire Survivor is the same thing. So now I'm getting Vampire Survivor this weekend because that game, like I said, Wedding Witch was just oddly addictive.
Nice. Not on the Sweet Baby Inc. list?
Definitely not.
Let's freaking go. I stand behind this game.
Right. Other than that, I started re-exploring BioShock.
BioShock. All right. Did the recent
times.
crossover with Magic the Gathering inspire you to rediscover BioShock, or just kind of your own thing?
What crossover?
They released like BioShock decks.
That's Fallout.
Oh, yeah,
Different
that's what
game.
I meant. That's what I meant, Kyle. Oh my gosh.
No, I'd be super excited. Listen, not gonna lie, if they got the BioShock properly, I'd probably buy the super expensive, unnecessary foil decks that are worth way too much.
That's fair.
Because I like BioShock. I also like Fallout, and I'm going to get those decks and have them sit on my shelf. But there's nothing really to talk about BioShock-wise, because this would be like the 9th time I played through it, and I've already talked about it before. It's just a stellar game series that I don't think I'll ever get tired of.
What's the best BioShock?
Ooh.
And then the second question I'm going to ask you is, which is the first BioShock you should play?
1.
Okay. No prequels, nothing like that. Play 1. Got it.
There's no prequels.
All right. Perfect.
There's 1, 2, and Infinite.
I like it.
And out of all 3, 2 is definitely the weakest.
They're also in numerical order. 1, 2, Infinite.
Right.
Now, when they make the next game, they might run into a problem, but
1 and Infinite are. Oh my god. That is a hard question. Which is my favorite? I'm stuck between Infinite and 1 because they're both amazing on different aspects.
Okay.
I use this as an analogy that I got from another YouTuber. Number 1 is arriving the day after a crazy ass party, and you're coming out of your drunken stupor to try to figure out what happened at this party while dealing with a bunch of mentally ill and crazy people in a horrifying setting.
Yeah.
That's number 1. Infinite is you are showing up to this party to fuck shit up.
Nice.
You are the reason why the party went sideways.
You are the problem. Got it. Got it.
Yeah,
got it.
exactly.
Okay. All right. So one's kind of like a you're trying to survive, and the other one's kind of like a hit the ground running insane shit, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like Infinite is, and here's the thing, Infinite's very good, even, and it's set in the 40s.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually set in the 20s. It's set in the 20s and 30s, and there's a lot of racial undertones with that movie. Well, not even undertones, direct tones. Direct racial conflict and craziness. And you can swing around a monorail on a giant hook on your hand while you machine gun racists and splatter the religious fervor all over the ground.
Wow.
Where BioShock 1 is
you play the role of the racist, right? Since the no, I'm just kidding.
No, it's weirdly BioShock 1 has very different tones.
It's just a completely different game.
Yeah, but they're tied together. They feel so the same, but they have such different aspects, and it's, oh my god, I would say Infinite would be my favorite.
Gotcha.
I'd say if it was like percentage wise, it'd be 99% Infinite, 98% 1. That's how close they are together.
Nice. All
What
right.
about you, John?
Well, Kyle, I've of course I've been playing a lot of Nightingale still. Still not done with that game. I'm doing the Vault now, which is the part where it includes other players. You're working together. We had a patch update recently that makes the game a little bit easier to play, makes the sorting and inventory better. But the game I want to talk about today is Loop Hero on Steam. Have you ever heard of that one, Kyle?
Heard of it, but hardly know anything about it. I've heard the name, know nothing about it.
Gotcha. So, the store description is the Lich has thrown the world into a timeless loop and plunged its inhabitants into a never-ending chaos. Wield an expanding deck of mystical cards to place enemies, buildings, and terrain along each unique expedition loop for the brave hero. Recover and equip powerful loot for each class of hero for their battles, and expand the survivors' camp to reinforce each adventure through the loop. Unlock new classes, new cards, and devious guardians on your quest to shatter the endless cycle of despair.
Were you not playing this with somebody and I watched you guys?
I've played it a couple times on stream. What I usually do with Loop Heroes, it's one of those games that you can pause at any time and there's zero issue. And so I like to play it while games load or I'm in a lobby. It's a nice little idle game to have on the side, but I mean it's a good game. You can just sit there and play the game straight without playing anything else. Nightingale has such long load times when you're going to a different realm. It's either you're gonna leave, get a drink or something, come back, or you got to find something else to do for a minute because it's like a 3-minute load to go to a different realm. So I've been playing Loop Hero, and then sometimes I find myself when I'm done with Nightingale, I'm over here playing Loop Hero. It's an amazing infinite adventure game. Basically, yeah, you can select from unlockable character classes. I think there's 3 total. And you create a deck of cards that basically, the premise is that.
No, I was just looking to see if this is not the game I thought you were playing.
Oh, okay, all right.
It was whatever you were playing with. I think it was Wayne. It was the one where you guys it was like a tower defense kind of gamey.
Oh, that might be I think I know the game you're talking about. It's
like you'd like try to blow like little areas up and then move to the next area, and you had 3 different pathways.
I'm looking at my freaking game library because
it was almost like a tower defense game. It seemed like a tower, like kill orcs or something like that.
Yeah, I remember the original game was called Wicca, but I can't remember the actual release name of the game, which is silly. They changed the name because of the witch like connotation. Time Melders, the game.
Yeah, that's it.
Time Melders is awesome. I definitely recommend that game. It's one of the cooler premise indie games that I've played. Yeah, like if you buy the game, you can do the 2-player campaign. The second player doesn't need to buy the game. They can download the second player demo, I guess, and you can do game sharing like that with the game. So it's cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if that was Loop Hero or not. And then
Nope. Loop Hero though. So some of the gameplay for Loop Hero, at its core, Loop Hero is a roguelike deck building game. And it has auto battler strategies as well. You control what the hero has equipped, but the hero always travels on a circular path and always uses its attack or ability in the same way. What you control over the hero is what kind of monsters it's going to fight, because you play the cards that create the monsters. Over time, as you build stuff, you're going to get closer and closer to fighting against the boss of that level. And if you can beat that boss and take away his resources back to your camp, it's a huge benefit. If you lose, you get 30% of the resources you collect, and you get resources by placing these cards and having your character just run through the tile, and he collects some resources automatically. And so it's at its core, it's kind of a resource collecting game, but it also has this nostalgic. It features pixel art and an aesthetic that really pays homage to classic RPGs. It also incorporates modern design elements. The visuals are really charming. It's a very nostalgic type of game with that aspect. It reminds me of the original Final Fantasy games as far as like the character sprites and models. Even like the text blocks, like they did really good with the art for this game. The soundtrack is actually kind of a banger. I'm not a huge fan of like CRT game audio. It isn't usually my thing, but this one I'll keep the audio going. Find myself over here bumping to the music, you know. But it's a good time. It's a good time. And then the other thing, one thing I suggest is there is an option to add full screen mode with CTR scan lines. I suggest adding those scan lines because it makes the game look better, just like any retro game looks better with scan lines. My opinion.
I agree.
Yeah. I think replayability is one of the game's biggest strengths, though. It is a high replayability game, and basically each loop that you run through is just new challenges, and you know you're setting the enemies that you fight against using these cards. And so you have to kind of balance to make sure your hero is going to be able to get through the loop to get back to the camp. And so you have to kind of measure what you put out there and not overplay enemy cards, but you still need to like get good equipment to level up to make your character better. So you do need to fight things and you do need to play these cards. So it's really like a resource balance versus challenge. And then as well, you're really incorporating like, okay, I need to upgrade this hero's abilities. And then once you get used to one of the heroes, once you get used to playing one of the heroes, you get introduced to a new one, which is maybe slightly better. I think my favorite's the Necromancer, which you get to have like four zombies chilling with you, and you get more and more depending on the gear that you pick up. But yeah, Loop Hero, it's a charming little game. I suggest it highly. It's really fun.
Okay, I'm actually gonna check it out after this.
Awesome, man.
Because we're actually pretty good at recommending games for each other.
Yeah, I think so. I also played Don't Pee. I played that on stream. Oh my gosh, Don't Pee is hilarious.
Did you beat it yet?
I didn't beat it yet. I haven't gotten back to it. I will, though. That game is so fun. I played it for a little bit on stream. I found that because of the way the gameplay loop works, since it restarts you at the very beginning, I'm like, well, doing the same thing over and over. For stream, it doesn't play very well. But playing on my own
for a little bit, but it can become very tedious, especially if you're failing a lot.
Yep, exactly. And I'll tell you what, I'm a good typist. I can type like 65 words per second, or per minute rather. Jeez. But when those prompts come up to try not to pee, I'm scrambling to think, where's the X key on my keyboard? And I'm like trying to think this out when usually I just type and be fine, right? So it got me a couple times on that where I'm holding the WASD keys, and then I have to switch to home row so that I can hit W. And sometimes I'd stay on the wrong. I'd stay on the ASD and put my pinky on caps lock, and I'd be hitting Q instead of W. And I'm like, oh, you mother. So that part was a little frustrating, but I think it's like I suggest playing the game if you want to have a good time, a nice laugh, because it is funny. The voice line, some of the stuff is hilarious. Some of the Easter eggs, some of the red herrings they throw in there, just like, okay, they have a TV. I think I'm getting information from this TV. No, they're just telling me about this zombie outbreak that has nothing to do with this game that I'm playing.
And I love it. You got to the point of the owl.
Yeah, when I got to the owl, I was like, "What the hell is this game?" Oh, And, being a diabetic, we pee more often than most people. We drink a lot of water.
I love the main character, just the outrageous screams and sounds he makes when he has to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, he's like,
oh,
he's like, oh man, I shouldn't have had those 5 beers last night. Oh, I really gotta pee. And he gets up and he walks a couple feet, and then like anything happens, and he's like, oh, and he reaches down. And you have to hammer F or whatever key, and then it's like, oh, and then he starts walking again, and then like you open a door or a light turns on. Oh, yeah! It's hilarious.
The voice actor, I'll give him credit because he's like trying to be Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, he is too.
And it's so amusing because it's such intensity over such a stupid premise.
It is. It really is.
And it's the best $2 ever spent.
Well, it also kind of reminds me of like some of these survival crafting games I play, because it's like you need to build a toilet. And to build a toilet with this crafting bench, which is just like a little art table or whatever, you have to go in a freaking basement and mine porcelain. It's like this is so much right now. But yeah, I definitely recommend that. I am gonna finish that game though. It's it was a lot of fun on stream. It was a good time.
Yeah, I was like, I should send this to John. He'll get some amusement out of it.
I did. It was a good time. All right, buddy. Well, I think we're at about time, right?
Yeah, we're about time. Before we head out, I posted on my Discord for the show here is, I gave out a poll of several different games that I have because I need to find something to work on the next 2 weeks, so I have something to review with you.
Okay.
Well, okay. This is your second one, so we got to know.
Yeah, this is the second one. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that one off air, buddy.
There may or may not be a third with John.
Yep, may or may not. At the very least, I'd be more than happy to be a guest from time to time, but we'll talk the details out and figure things out moving forward. So.
Yeah, because like I'm not asking for a whole lot of commitment. You don't have to sign in blood or anything.
I mean,
not yet.
I will if you need me to.
I mean, if that's going to be how it's going to be, then there's definitely going to be a third and plus episodes.
Oh man!
But no, I'm looking for the games. Yeah, I have the poll up on our Discord. Pop in, put your votes in, because that'll help me give me something to play.
Yeah, any of my peeps from my Discord server, make sure you check out the Alpha Nerd Podcast's Discord server. They got a lot going on over there, and yeah, we'll see how the see what game everybody votes for. What are our options, Kyle?
Oh my god, I think I put up 7 or 8.
Okay, all right.
Let's take a quick look, because I can do that.
Nice. We have the technology. As your Discord stops playing audio, you can't hear me anymore. And
no. Fortunately,
every possible issue.
Yeah, right. So right now I have up for the poll I created. Yakuza number 1, because I picked up that bundle this morning because it was on sale for $40 the first 6 games.
Ooh.
Fear, Romancevania, Jack Move, Lacuna, Deadly Premonitions, and Digimon Cyber Sleuth.
Nice.
And these are all off my Steam list because my console list, there's a bunch of other games I want to play, but these are the ones that I can actually get screenshots of.
Okay.
Effectively easier.
I gotcha. Yeah, that sounds good, buddy. I'll make sure to hop over to the Discord so I can toss my vote in as well. But yeah. Another thing is Steam sales. I know it's a little bit late to do the sale that's going on right now because I think it ends today or tomorrow. It ends pretty soon.
Tomorrow night.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we probably can't talk about the Steam Spring sale, but I definitely want to do like a recommended Steam summer sale episode where we talk about some of the games that are going to be for the summer sale. Which ones play well, which ones are bad, and what to get into depending on the genre of game you like. So I think we could do something with that as well.
Yeah, that actually sounds really good. That actually sounds badass. I'm down.
Cool. All right. Sounds good, buddy. Well, you have a great rest of your night, man. I will talk to you later. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a good night.